Well, Sony, if you've succeeded at anything today with your endeavor, it is you've officially created, in my mind, the new subgenre of film, the in association with Marvel films. So, bravo there.
You save lives, you don't take them.
Are you here to heal the world? Or to destroy it?
Yes. Today we have Morbius. We're so dark, we're so edgy, we're Sony. We got Venom and Morbius. We're gonna bring over Vulture and get our Sinister Six eventually. Where to start with this movie? I'm sure you've seen all the reviews already. I wanna be fair, but I just wanna put my 2 cents in real quick. Morbius makes me laugh. The production, I mean. Like, this movie was supposed to come out, I shit you not, in summer of 2020. This film has been delayed 6 times. Obviously, most of those delays were for COVID, but then after COVID, they had a date and changed their mind, and they had a date and changed their mind. I have seen the trailer for Morbius more times than I care to admit, and it is not a great trailer. It's an okay trailer that I would be cool with seeing once or twice. I'm so glad the movie's come out, so I never have to fucking. My favorite part about all this is this was supposed to come out in February, but then after No Way Home, they wanted to do some final reshoots to try to build up what I guess they're referring to as like the dark, like Sony, not MCU, but the Sony like Marvel dark verse or whatever, kind of like what Universal tried to do and spectacularly failed in a few years back. But they're trying to build that up, so they had to like postpone it for some quick post-credit scene reshoots and all this. So then they were like, oh, it's coming out. When's it coming out? April 1st. And like, oh, cherry on top of the fucking, like, what a joke. What a literal joke. Morbius came out this year in 2022. It's supposed to come out 2 years ago. Director is a Daniel Espinosa. Funny enough, like, filmography-wise, couple of, like, not a lot of stuff directing-wise. He did Safe House. I never saw that one. What I did see that he did, Life, I saw that once in theaters. It wasn't actually too bad. It was a fairly solid sci-fi, like, horror thriller in my mind. It was pretty well done. He doesn't have a lot of filmography experience. I think this is probably the biggest movie to this date that he's done. So, that's the director. Who does Morbius star? Oh, I mean, how could you not know at this point? Our singer, songwriter, cult leader. Wow, hey there, Jared. Why don't you come on in here and have a seat? Jared Leto, or as some have referred to him, Jared Leto, or as some others refer to him, Jared Peto. I don't know. Jared Leto is the star of Morbius. Look, it's one of those situations. It's a Mel Gibson situation, you know, or a Tom Cruise situation. Are they good, upstanding human beings? No. But the artists as they are and what they have put forth, like Tom Cruise, I respect him as an actor and as someone who has pushed the limits of what people can do stunt-wise and film-wise on the silver screen. However, as a person, he's fucking weird, dude. And same thing with Mel Gibson. Is he anti-Semitic? Did he say some very anti-Semitic comments way back in the day? Yes. I don't think he's a very good person. But he is also responsible for bringing us Mad Max, and he directed Hacksaw Ridge. So you, like, God, the internal fight you have with this shit, right? J.K. Rowling, you know what? Let's not get into that. There's other cast members too. I guess the other one to really notate in there, even though it's funny, he's barely in the trailer because they don't want to spoil his role, but Matt Smith is in this movie. I would argue that Jared Leto and Matt Smith are the two main characters. Is there a female love interest? Yes. Does she matter to the film? Not really. I don't think it's a terrible film. I think I've seen worse this year. I have seen way worser this year. Is it good? No. It's definitely not a good film. Best thing I can describe Morbius, and it's after the credits rolled, I was like, that was quite a silly film. What's funny is, first act build up into this, like, the first act lays some decent groundwork. It's like what the trailers show. Like, I actually was kind of like, okay, it might not have a big payoff, but I'm curious to see where we go from here. Boy, no, things just kind of get really, really silly through Act 2 and 3 in this. The pros, I mean, Morbius is kind of an interesting character. I don't feel empathy or sympathy for him, but I think that I get it. His motivations are sound and make sense. I think that the character seems cool. The powers seem cool. Like, it's almost like some Green Goblin shit. You splice the DNA in you, and all of a sudden, you start experiencing, the same kind of powers that the DNA came from bats. The bats have. Although they take quite a few liberties with like what bats can and can't actually do, but we'll let it slide, I guess. What's unfortunate is that I mean, the positive stuff to say is that, yeah, the powers are kind of cool, and this film is very stylistic. The film kind of knows what it is. I think it knows what it wants to do, but I don't think it succeeds very well in doing that. But I don't know. Jared does a good job. Sure, he plays the character. Everybody plays the character that they were assigned well. Whether that character is well written is another story entirely. But nobody was like a bad actor in this film. I mean, they got some good cast in here. I love Matt Smith. But I have very few positive things to say about this film. It's just like, what kind of sucks about it, it's not like terrible, but by the end of it, you just have this big, messy, CGI fuckfest of sorts. You have this you have these themes and you have these emotions they try to play for in the film, but every single moment that would have emotional impact is completely unearned because characters aren't really developed. They just kind of exist, and Morbius is doing things, but the rest of them just kind of meander or play really, really far into all of a sudden this huge character arc. I'm gonna do spoilers here because just I don't think you should really waste your time seeing it, so I'm just going to be talking about it anyway. I think Matt Smith, I don't know if there's an image I can find for reference here. Matt Smith is hands down the funniest looking vampire I have seen in my fucking life, and that's coming from a guy who has also seen Edward from Twilight. Edward from Twilight looks like Nosferatu compared to this shit. I'm not saying that Matt Smith is bad in his role. No, I think he plays the role. He is the best part of the film for me. Seeing Matt Smith twirl and dance around and being like, come on now, let's go kill some people. That was great. But he looks quite silly when he does it. And this movie kept doing this thing, this stylistic choice where whenever action did ramp up, it would stop in slow motion. And then all of a sudden, very quick, fast action, and woo, slow motion again. And it's I get it. They move faster than the speed of, I don't know, sound, air, light, whatever. But you do those slow motion bits so you can have some notion of what's going on. This movie's all over the place, and so my review's all over the place. I had a couple pros to say, but this movie just is, it's quite silly. And by the end of it, these things are happening, and you're like, why is this happening? I was laughing ironically at a lot of what was going on by the end of it, and then just things wrap up really quickly, and then all of a sudden it's boom, we're done. And then when the film ends, you get these after credit sequences that are we're trying to build up our own Sonyverse. That's pretty cool, right? And all of us in the theater were like, no, not really. No, this is pretty forced and lame if you ask us. A lot of what happens in this film is incredibly forced. If you saw the trailer, then you've seen Act 1, and then Act 2 and 3. I mean, look, you could get drunk and watch this with some friends, and I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna have a good time. A lot of it was just... And then you got the world's greatest detectives over here following them around, and one of them is okay, he plays it pretty cool. The other one with glasses you see in the trailer, he is the least subtle detective I've ever seen in my life, and it is hilarious to me. I mean, I didn't make a list for this, I just wanted to just say a few points and just talk about it for a few minutes, but I don't know, Venom's better. People really took a shit on Venom too. I liked both Venom films in their own right. Are they great films? Not really, but they were fun. I knew what I was getting into. I liked Venom 1, I liked Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Was it a good film? Again, But I would say both Venom films are better than Morbius, for sure, by a mile. Just Morbius is trying to do something and trying to be something, and I just don't think it succeeds very well. And it's unfortunate, because I feel like if all these titles that Sony... I'm a Sony fanboy, and I'll be the first one to stand up on a soapbox and call out their bullshit. If Sony would get their greasy, grubby little money-hungry hands off of these titles and let Marvel, who has at least been doing, the MCU justice in all of this. If MCU had gotten a chance to develop this, we could have already had a Venom and Tom Holland fight by now. We could have had Vulture involved more heavily in that unit. I'm getting into a whole thing here, but I'm just saying, I think Morbius could have been developed way better, but it needed better writing, better focus, better story, better visuals, and just, oh my god, it's just kind of like, I don't know, the movie wasn't boring. I was like watching and I was entertained, but not entertained in a good way. Just, you can skip this one. Stream it later. I don't know if Disney Plus will have it in the future, or if that's going to be like a thing. I don't know, but all the reviews are pretty much like, yeah, it's a shame when, you know, after going to see No Way Home and then Batman, and those being full opening night IMAX, like, sold out showings, I was like going to buy the ticket, right? Like, oh my god, what's it gonna be like? Am I gonna be able to? I had forgotten to buy my tickets, and so I went in there. No, opening weekend, it was like a abysmal turnout, and the memes I'm seeing on TikTok and online, people are talking about Jared Leto's unprofessional conduct in the past. That's all starting to resurface. That's good. I hope that gets more media attention, but also just the fact that, like, this film that you can kind of clearly tell the quality of therein is now being like, audiences can make or break a film, and they're definitely out there voicing their opinion, and they're like, yeah, we're all telling you like what's good, what's bad, what's working. Usually that's dangerous and doesn't work, but it also gave us a good Sonic movie, so I mean, take it for what you will. Here's the funny thing. I'm not gonna give it, like, I don't think it was a piece of shit. Rotten Tomatoes has it at what, like 19, 17%, like a shock, like almost shockingly low and rotten. I'm giving it credit for what it does do properly, though. The characters, they're portrayed by their actors. They're trying, right? They're trying. The first act was interesting. The first act had laid some interesting groundwork and narrative foundation. It was still a messy first act, and then led into an even messier second and third act. But the film isn't a complete clusterfuck. It manages to, like, somewhat function just well enough to, like, be a film, but a film that I thought was not good and was in fact a silly film, but it wasn't terrible. I would give Morbius, funny enough, a very, very low 3 out of 5. A low 3 out of 5. I don't want to give it a 2, because 2 is usually what I give a film when I'm outright telling you it's a bad film. Like, it's funny, because this film, like, I guess you could say it's bad, but I just think it's messy and silly, and just, you know, I think the quality in terms of production design, acting, like, it's there, but in terms of story, writing, sympathy, empathy, the not really earning any emotional moments that it tries to put into itself, like, that's where this film falls short for sure. But I digress. Morbius, you can, like I said, you can skip this one. Don't go see it in theaters. Stream it if you want later. But if you don't watch this, you are missing absolutely nothing aside from just, you know, edgelord, edgy vampire boy has to, like, figure out how not to drink blood, while Matt Smith is a vampire who loves to kill and have that power and drink blood. And then they just kind of, like, argue for, like, I don't know, 50 minutes. Call that what you will. Yeah. That's it. It's a messy film, messy review. There you go. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. Got some good ones coming up in April, so there's that. But goodbye, travelers.